Hello, welcome to the Weekly Review, a program of South Sudan Network making sense of news and topics relevant to South Sudan and its diaspora. Today we are joined by Honorable Gideon Gatpan Thoar, a member at the East African Legislative Assembly, the legislative organ of the East African Community. He's one of South Sudan's representatives at the East African Legislative Assembly. We will be discussing the recent waiver by the Kenyan Ministry of Foreign Affairs of visa requirements for South Sudanese who hold valid passports. The decision is said to be in adherence to the provisions of the Treaty of the Establishment of the East African Community and the Common Market Protocol on free movement of labor and persons for the citizens of partner states. South Sudan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation also welcomed the decision by the Kenyan government. And South Sudan has also announced reciprocating the visa waiver as for the Kenyan citizens. And we will be discussing the significance of the moves and also generally how South Sudan is doing at the East African Community, which it became its official member in September 2016 after depositing instruments of ratification with the Secretary General of the bloc. Welcome to the Weekly Review, Honorable.
Thank you, Roger. I'm happy to be with you in the studio. Thank you.
Let's start by you telling our audience how significant is this move of waiver of visa requirements between the two countries?
Thank you. This is a great step. We appreciate the two countries, the Republic of Kenya and the Republic of South Sudan. This is a move that we as MPs in the East African Legislative Assembly have been pushing that it should happen because it is a requirement in the treaty. And we are there as an assembly to legislate, to represent and oversight and make sure we do the monitoring and all that kind of work to ensure that our oversight activity, if any provision of the treaty is not implemented and it is enforced, then we as legislators, we have the responsibility to ask the Council of Ministers of the East African Community to be able to effect that kind of provision. So this is a business of the treaty. The treaty establishing East African Community, Article 104, in the scope of cooperation under the treaty, under that particular article, we have the free movement of goods, free movement of persons, free movement of labor, and then the right to establishment and the right of residence. So all those are under that article. And then the protocol, the protocol on the common market is an instrument of the community. No, protocols are agreements by the partner states that are part of operationalizing the treaty itself. And from there is where now you see the partner states have agreed under the common market protocol that they should have this free movement of goods, free movement of persons, and free movement of services, free movement of labor, right of residence, and right of a particular item under Article 7 of the Common Market Protocol, and that is the free movement of persons. This free movement of persons is key in doing business in the East African Community. And you know our community is a regional economic community that is driven by business. You cannot have business or trade in EAC without free movement of persons and free movement of goods, services, and labor. So that is a significant part of it. We are thinking this is a breakthrough because between South Sudan and Kenya, our business people, our tourists, our everybody else, plus those who have conditions to seek services in other countries in any kind, then they can be able to move. Already South Sudan and Tanzania, they have free movement of persons. Burundi had already dropped the visas with South Sudan, Rwanda, it remains now Uganda. And I think it is also our responsibility as MPs in the East African Legislative Assembly to also push the Republic of Uganda to be part of this move to make sure that the free movement of person is operationalized. Thank you.
How about the practical aspect? Because South Sudanese have been reacting to the news with mixed positions. Some of them have been asking or even saying that they stand to benefit nothing or very little at all from this waiver of visa between the two countries. So there are those who still maintain that, yes, even if South Sudan has a small population compared to Kenya, which has 40 million versus about 12 million of South Sudan, still there are benefits coming with the waiver of the visa requirements. And then there are those arguing that they're going to benefit very little or nothing at all. What would you say is the benefits for the people of South Sudan?
Thank you very much, Roger. Yes, there are a number of benefits, and there are also legitimate concerns by the people of South Sudan. Let me begin with those that have some doubts, that are thinking that waiving visas is something that will encourage perhaps Kenyan to influx into South Sudan and we take all jobs. These are concerns we have been receiving. There's a worry, but that is something that need to be considered this way. In any country, there is a regulation that is always controlling a certain aspect of employment and also requirements that are agreed regionally. All the issue of labor that our people are really fearing is also mentioned under Regulation 6 of the regulations that are taking care of this protocol. And this regulation requires the ministers of the EAC to sit down and see a way to harmonize the question of labor. So that is controlled under another aspect of the treaty. And that is still provided for in the Common Market Protocol, and especially Regulation 6 of the Common Market. Now, with the movement of persons, this is part of the facilitation of trade. You know, we have the free movement of goods that is facilitated by one-stop border post. The movement of persons now, the people moving together with these goods or those who are moving alone coming to the countries to do other business need to be facilitated. You cannot have the facilitation on the other way and you don't have it on the other side. You have the removal of non-tariff barriers just to facilitate the trade. The movement of also visas is also facilitation of trade, of visa fee. It's another facilitation of trade. So now South Sudanese, let's say for example, are schooling in EAC. They come for medical services in EAC. And they're also doing trade. They have partners in the EAC region. Other concern that they have is that our country is not producing. So there's nothing we are taking to the East African market. But that is not justifiable concern a lot, because we know we are not going to be static. Our country is going to move. Whenever this peace agreement is implemented to the letter and spirit, then you'll see the economy is peaking. And the investors who are now in Kenya, you know, after the war of 2013, most of our investors, they got back to Uganda and Kenya because they were fearing, and they came and invested in the region. Now, if there is going to be a conducive environment for them to invest, particularly the Kenyan and Ugandan companies and the rest of the East African community business firms, they will be able now to be motivated. They will go back to South Sudan and invest. That kind of investment, because they have free movement of persons, then that kind of investment will create jobs in our country, and also will be able to increase the base or the size of our market. East Africa is a common market by itself of 173 million people. So we are part of that market, and we cannot limit ourselves from accessing goods and services from Uganda or Kenya or any other country in EAC. So it is always understandable that we can have it, that we don't have the much that Kenya can do in terms of business, but we should not look as underdog. This is something we have to accept, that we are part of the community, and by sovereignty and by everything under Article 6 of the treaty, we are all equal. We have something to do as South Sudanese to be able to get what we want in the East African community. So I think in terms of business, doing business with the Kenyan, in terms of coming to schools for our children who are schooling here, in terms of accessing medical services also in the region, and in other aspects of tourism. So this is something that South Sudanese are able to get. Likewise, the Kenyan are interested in investing in South Sudan. So those investors would be able to go to South Sudan freely and be able to invest in South Sudan. This time, as regional MPs, we are also encouraging business persons and firms in the region to go back to South Sudan and start investing in South Sudan. That's one of our roles. And if the visas are waived, then they are able to go and invest in South Sudan. Thank you.
And regarding those protocols, are they not supposed to be ratified through the legislatures of each country, rather than you have the ministries, Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then South Sudan also included the Ministry of Interior, reaching those decisions of waiving the visa?
Yes, you know, there is in the treaty, all these protocols that we got before we accessed the East African community, all those protocols that we have submitted together with the instruments of ratification by our country, they came into force and they bind us like any other country that has participated in negotiating and signing and ratifying the protocols. So the protocol of East African community came into force in 2010 before we joined the community, but we had submitted the instrument of ratification, and this is part of it. Although we are not in equal footing in terms of implementation with the other countries. Rwanda came after and the rest came after, but they joined and they also implemented. For us, you've heard our president had appealed in the summit, during the summit on the 27th of February this year, when he was appealing that the region should also, the South Sudan is ready to drop the visas, and the region also should be able, Kenya and Uganda in particular were able, he was appealing to them to be able to drop the visas so that this will speed up the integration process by encouraging free movement of persons. And also, same thing to do with the more time in fast tracking the South Sudan integration process that is concerned also. So, and that is because we were given our fast tracking period for us to be able to comply with some provisions of the custom union and the common market. Then we were caught up by time because our country was in the conflict. And that was the reason why the president had to ask for another extension so that our time to come into equal footing in terms of implementation with the rest of the countries is extended a little bit. In the East African community, you have a provision you are allowed to stay of application of a certain provision that you think, because you have to harmonize your system. Let's say, for example, things to do with the customs and all that, you need your people to be trained, and that's why the president appealed also for the people of South Sudan to be helped by training them by the East African community. And that is a legitimate appeal, because you need to know what is it that is required by the treaty for you to implement a certain provision of the treaty. And that is something that is being followed by the East African Community Secretariat, and that is something that the South Sudan is doing at this time. So I think with the question of common market, with the question of custom union, we are part of it. And then now we are approaching the question of monetary union out of the four pillars of the community, because the third pillar now is the monetary union, and then the other one now is a political federation that is now converted to become a political confederation. So that those are the four pillars for our integration. For these two, they have already come into force, and South Sudan is part of it.
Well, I'm asking because I remember in 2016, I interviewed the then presidential advisor on economic affairs and the special envoy to the EAC, Agritisa Sabuni, who said South Sudan had requested for 3 years period to be able to prepare and review its laws to conform to the protocols, the custom union, common market, and relevant laws of the EAC. So we've seen over the years that did not happen because there was war. And he also said that, yeah, it may take also longer for South Sudan to do that if the situation could not allow. And that they made that very clear to the EAC. So what we don't know is that are there plans now to do that, to harmonize South Sudan laws and ratify those protocols? Because politically speaking, also there are people who pointed out that, like, one of the activists, one of the analysts, political analysts who I interviewed last time during that issue in 2016, he was arguing that it is not going to be possible to pass those protocols in South Sudan because when the decision was made to join South Sudan, there were a lot of people who did not want that to happen. They think it was a rush to have South Sudan join the EAC. And so he argued that the protocols would face difficulties in the legislature if it was to be, they were to be tabled there. And now, from your observations, do you think people of South Sudan able to do, the legislature would be able to do that? Are there preparations even for the legislature and the people of South Sudan to welcome and ratify those protocols?
Roger, you don't need to ratify these protocols because protocol on common market and protocol on the custom union, they are part of the instrument of the ratification that we have submitted as a country. So you don't need to ratify them again. With other laws, EAC laws takes precedence over the laws of equal measure in our partner states. So there are other acts of parliament we are passing in East African community. By the time they are signed and by the time they are assented to by the heads of the states, when they come into force after all the partner states have signed, then that law now, that's the state now that you need the country to go and harmonize it with their laws. So from there now you take it down because it takes precedence over a certain law. When the presidents or the heads or the members of summit have signed that, now the next step is now going down to the country to be able to harmonize which side of the law or which aspect of the law or which text of the law that has been affected by this law that has been passed in the East African community. These protocols are agreements between states. And when these agreements were done before us, when we were now submitting the instrument of ratification, they were part of what we have considered. What we are taking now is not a question of ratification of the same protocols of the common market and also the custom union that were done before us, but it is how do we implement them? And that's why there is a lot of training being done to South Sudanese already by the EAC, just to be sure that they move a step by step. And there's a program for fast tracking the implementation of common market and custom union by the Republic of South Sudan. And that's why the president has also asked for another extension of equivalent time so that whatever has not been finished can be finished. The monetary union, we had passed the bill last year, and that bill was not assented to because there are requirements that is needed for a central bank of the country, for a system of regulatory to be in place and all that. Perhaps we are not ready, and that's why it is also lagging behind because it was done, it was passed. That is, one bill was passed, but at least 3 of the same have not been passed. The Statistics Bureau bill was passed by the Assembly, has not been assented to by the heads of state. The East African Financial Service Commission bill has not been tabled yet to our Assembly. The East African Surveillance and Compliance Commission bill has not yet been brought to the Parliament. Those are things that are constituting the monetary union aspect of the treaty. That's a pillar on the monetary union. So there is low because also our implementation of the same is also slow. So those are the laws. When you know we are reaching that level of the monetary union later on, you will see South Sudanese will be able now to understand better how this business of approaching a particular pillar of the community is done, because they would have found some training already. So by the time the bill on establishing the East African Central Bank or East African Bank is done, they will know already they have participated in the Monetary Institute. They would have participated in the Statistics Bureau. They would have participated in the Financial Service Commission. They would have participated in Surveillance and Compliance Commission, which are going to be part of the Central Bank or the Bank of East Africa after the money is united. So those are things that the aspect about one another. You are from customs union. Yes.
The aspects you mentioned about harmonizing.
I'm saying they are going step by step and a stage by stage.
Yes, but then the controversy that remained around the issue of South Sudan joining the EAC, it was also observed actually by the South Sudan's parliamentary committees that was tasked with scrutinizing the treaty prior to its subsequent ratification, in a report in May 2016 that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation was not actively involved during the whole process of the South Sudan EAC membership negotiations. And then, let me quote here, the report said, quote, sensitization and awareness of citizens to the advantages and disadvantages of accession to EAC and encouraging involvement and active participation of private sector and civil society organizations, unquote. That was what they recommended by then. But then the concerns people are raising that when people of South Sudan do not understand even what they stand to gain, they're not sensitized about the benefits and the challenges, then it becomes difficult. And isn't that still a matter of concern to South Sudan, the government, including you, the MPs, to really sensitize the people of South Sudan? And also, are they even able to opt out if they want to opt out?
The question of sensitization is very important. And I really appreciate that they have highlighted that in that report. South Sudan community, not even South Sudan community alone, the importance of EAC. And that's because the sensitization is not up to what we want. That's one. But that does not bring us to the question. The African Union Vision 2063 is a clear vision. And the East African community is part of that vision. In this world which is globalizing, you cannot live alone. South Sudan population is just about 12 million or 12 million. Now, for you to negotiate a deal with the United States, to negotiate a deal with the European Union, to negotiate a trade deal with Canada, to negotiate a trade deal with any bloc that is a bloc deal in the world. Now business has gone to blocks. You need a market size that you can be able to benefit from. So being in EAC with our 12 million population, adding to EAC and we make 173 million market size is good for South Sudanese to benefit from that trade deal. Leave alone your inter-trade in EAC region, where you can produce goods in South Sudan and just go and sell them in Uganda without charges. You just need to show a certificate of origin that these goods were produced from the Republic of South Sudan. Now, coming to the same worry that because the citizens were not involved in the process of negotiation. You know, East African community is a project of the African Union. South Sudanese know very well that South Sudan is a member of African Union. And this is a project of African Union for the regions to prepare themselves before they reach the ultimate union in 2063. And for us to benefit from the business in the region, we need to be part of the bloc. Like the crisis that has happened in South Sudan, if we were not part of EAC, I don't think a single South Sudanese would be able to buy bread in Juba market. Because of these reasons I'm giving, one, there's something we call a single custom territory. Your goods are coming and entering the port of Mombasa. They are not taxed from Mombasa except in Nimuli. So you don't have taxes in Mombasa by the Kenyan government. They are not taxed by the government of Uganda. That is just one example. If any goods come from Dar es Salaam, it's the same. How many countries will they pass? They will have to pass Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda, or they pass Tanzania and Uganda, and they come to South Sudan. If they were to be taxed in the situation where South Sudan was at war, if the cost if the tax in Kenya and the tax in Uganda and the tax that is taken in Nimli are going to be reflected in a cost of a particular commodity in Juba, I tell you, nobody would be able to buy a bread in Juba. And that's a simple example, and it is practical. So that is one part of being in the East African community. Our goods are now only taxed in Nimli by South Sudan government. That reduces the extra charges that would have been added there by the business people. So it reduces the cost of doing business in the region, including South Sudan. So that's another important thing that I need my colleagues, the legislators in South Sudan also to understand. But for us in East African community, we have been going to Juba. We sensitize, we go to radios, we go to TVs, but that is not enough. We need this piece so that we go to the interior. We go together because in our mandate, we are supposed to move together with the legislators in our national parliaments, go to their constituencies and go and talk to the people down and tell them the benefits of EAC and what is this EAC. You know, in South Sudan, that cannot happen because our communities were at war and they have a lot of issues and the question of everything difficult down there. We are only reaching people that got access to radio, to newspapers, to TV, which are fewer than those that need to know about the benefits of EAC.
And how about the issues of development and allocation of funds and projects implementation in member states? I saw recently some members have been complaining, some South Sudanese members in the EAC Legislative Assembly complained about being left out, South Sudan being left out from developmental projects.
Thank you, Roger. There was a clip that was moving in the social media. Actually, the voice that was complaining very sharp, and the picture, I was just caught on the picture. It was not a live, I was not brought live by the journalists who took that, but I was actually among those one who complained during the budget debate. Because we were debating by the way the budget speech by the Council of Ministers of the East African Community, the budget that was presented by the chair of the Council of the East African Community. And it was in a particular context. It was about the infrastructure. The roads infrastructure and other infrastructure projects. For us, we saw they were concentrated in the Central Corridor. Central Corridor is composed of Tanzania, Burundi, and Rwanda. Then the Northern Corridor is Sudan, is South Sudan, is Uganda, and Kenya. So those legislators who were speaking loudly in the parliament, including myself, Honorable Mary Mugenyi, Honorable Noor from Kenya, Honorable Mary Mugenyi from Uganda, and the rest of the members who spoke about it during that debate, we were concerned that the infrastructure projects were concentrated in the Central Corridor. There was need to focus on the infrastructure projects between South Sudan and Kenya, and South Sudan and Uganda, and between Uganda and Kenya and the other countries. We were thinking there was no need to begin with the projects which were linking EAC to other regions like Zambia, like any other country which is not part of EAC, before we finish linking our region with infrastructural projects before going to other countries that we know we have business interests. So that was our concern, but the response from the Council of Ministers, the Chair Council responded after our debate and said this will be corrected. And I know the current Secretary General is working very hard to ensure that also South Sudanese people experience the benefits of joining the East African community. And there is that initiative from the side of the Secretary General as well.
So that's going to be resolved.
It will be resolved, and the council promised that they will have to resolve that issue.
And also there was a complaint about the government back home. Is it the Minister of EAC, the East African Community Affairs, or who is said to have not been participating in sittings in the assembly?
Yes, you have seen 3 of our members in the on the media complaining that the attendance by our minister has really been something that has been lagging behind. Yes, you know, when you are appointed as a minister of the East African community by your partner state, obviously you are going to be an ex-officio of the East African Legislative Assembly. Now you have to be sworn in, and our minister was sworn in. After you being sworn in, you should be participating in the debates in the House. Because the Council of Ministers, individual members represent their own country. So the questions arising from the floor of the House, they are directed to either all of them, or they are directed to an individual country. So who is going to respond on behalf of the Republic of South Sudan if a question is asked in the floor of the House? So that is one. The second one, there are Council of Ministers meeting. Council of Ministers, when they meet, they have categories. There are senior officials, there are technical officials which are also below the senior officials, and there are the ministers. So now, our directors, our under secretaries, they can be able to participate in those senior officials meeting. But when it comes to the meeting of the Council of Ministers, our ministers sometimes will send an under secretary. In the treaty, that provision is not there. An under secretary cannot attend the meeting of ministers because he's not a minister, unless if he was a deputy minister, and he would have been sworn in. So our members raised that concern before, including the chair of our chapter. It is not only the Minister of East African Community. You know, there are sectoral council meetings. So when there's a meeting of the members of the council, it is those sectoral council ministers that have the responsibility to discuss. Let's say, for example, the meeting of sectoral council on finance and economic affairs. If it happens, you need the meeting, you need the Minister of Finance of South Sudan to be there. We have never seen, we only saw one time one deputy minister attending. That was in 2019, and nobody came back again. You need to see the meeting of the Sectoral Council of Health. Sometime for us, in our time in EAC, we have not seen the health minister attending it several times. If that happened, perhaps one. A Sectoral Council on Trade. We have not seen our Minister of Trade participating in the Sectoral Council on Trade. So it is not only the Minister of EAC, we are talking of our ministers to actually be able to attend the meeting or the meetings of the East African Council of Ministers. It is a project of our president, and our ministers should be able to be doing what is necessary for our country to claim its right. You know, this community, the quorum in this community is consensus. Decisions are made by consensus. So if a particular partner state is not there, that meeting cannot just proceed. If it proceeds, unless a country has committed itself that you go ahead with the meeting, whatever decision you take, we shall also consider it in our country. That's what has been happening. How can you allow other ministers to meet and you say you will be part of those minutes when you have not participated? How do you know the interest of your country has been taken care of? Because this is a regional bloc. Every country needs to know what is their interest. So that's why for us, we are oversight body, and we are representative of the people of South Sudan in the East African Parliament. If our ministers are not participating in terms of attending meetings, that one we can say, and that's why we tell the public, and that's why you saw most our friends, our brothers in the East African community, my colleagues, three of them went on media and said, yes, this is the thing happening, and that's why I am repeating it because it is part of our responsibility.
Now, what are they saying? What are their responses? The authorities in Juba, what are they saying as the reasons that make them not to participate? And also at the same time, there are political reasons, because some people say even some people in Juba are not interested in being members of EAC.
I don't think if there are political reasons, they will tell us, or they will tell the president, because we have already spoken, and we are all of us, by the way, all of us are going to be in Juba tomorrow. I'm going to Juba tomorrow. Some of us are in Juba, because when the session is closed, when we are sent for recess, we go back to our country. And we meet the ministers concerned. We have never gone to South Sudan without meeting the Minister of Trade, the Minister of East African. We meet all those ministers. And we are going to meet them again. And we meet the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and we meet other ministers that we know as a responsibility to regional integration. We always meet them. So we are going to Juba, we'll talk to them, we'll find what is their reaction, because this is our position. We are saying they need to attend, and not them alone. They should also be able to send their technical staff when there's a meeting for a coordinating committee, because there's a coordinating committee and there's a sectoral council. So if there's a meeting of sectoral council, the members of that sectoral council should go there, because under secretaries, directors, they should be part of this. If there is the sectoral council is actually a council of ministers, but the coordinating committees are these bodies which are made up by undersecretaries and senior officials. They need to send those people. So if you cannot come as a minister yourself, let the deputy minister come. If the deputy minister cannot come, ask for another minister whose docket is also sharing something with you in the EAC to come and attend on your behalf. That one is allowed. Well, but the total absent is what we are questioning.
Well, before I ask you to conclude, you tell our audience, people of South Sudan specifically, I've been trying to check on the EAC laws. There's something I've been reading, but it's not coming up. My system here is having a problem regarding withdrawal from the EAC or suspension of certain protocols. What are the procedures there? I saw something of that, but I have a problem with my system here.
Okay, I think I have these articles which are talking about the sanctions when you fail to meet a certain provision in the EAC. Mm-hmm. And these are Article 143 of the Treaty establishing the East African Community and Article 146. So Article 146 talk of a suspension of a member of East African Community. Article 143 is talking about the sanctions, and it is saying a partner state which defaults in meeting its financial and other obligations under this treaty shall be subject to such action as the summit may on the recommendations of the Council of Ministers determine. So for a country to be suspended, to be sanctioned, because it has not met the obligations, including financial obligations and others. If you have not made that, the Council of Ministers of the East African Community will recommend to the summit in their meeting for the summit to determine what kind of sanction to be given to you. That's what Article 143 is talking about. Article 146 is talking about the summit may suspend a member or a partner state, from taking part in the activities of the community if that state fails to observe and fulfill the fundamental principles, objectives of the treaty, including failure to meet financial commitments to the community within a period of 18 months. If you fail to meet financial obligation by not remitting to the community, and you have gone for a period of 18 months, the council may, the summit may suspend you. And that's the language, may suspend you, not shall suspend you.
Yes, so, but, and then there is Article 145, which I just found now, which says, talks about withdrawal of a member, voluntary withdrawal, I think. It's saying Article 145 Article 1 says a partner state may withdraw from the community provided that two-thirds of his National Assembly decides so. So that still also you have it there, right? And this means people of South Sudan can know that this exists if they would like to withdraw.
Yes, but there are implications.
You need 12 months notice.
This withdrawal is not just a simple withdrawal. Yes, this withdrawal under Article 145 is not a simple withdrawal because you need to calculate properly. There need to be a reasonable study that has been done about the repercussions of withdrawing from a regional economic community. That you share borders, that you share everything, social, trade, and political interests and security. It is not very easy. Yes, it is mentioned because in any treaty, in any agreement under international law, you need to have the provisions of how to get out of a certain deal. You have seen, and our people have seen, the Brexit. How my union, that is how difficult it is. And that is how we should warn ourselves, because in a globalizing world, there is a lot to achieve together than being alone. Leave alone our population as we are talking. Because we regarding direct business with the
regarding the implications regarding the implications that you're probably trying to mention concerning, you know, what you say the long-term effect could be what is mentioned in sub-article 3 of Article 147, which says, notwithstanding the effective withdrawal of from membership by such state upon entry of the notice, that state shall remain liable to discharge all subsisting obligations and long-term commitments incurred during membership. So this is what could face a member, I think. Right?
Can you repeat that?
146 Article 3 says, notwithstanding the effective withdrawal from membership by such state, upon expiry of the notice, the state shall remain liable to discharge all subsisting obligations and long-term commitments incurred during membership.
Yes, and that is why I was referring to Brexit. You know, when you come out, like now, let's say, for example, South Sudan. If South Sudan had to attempt in the future to withdraw, and they have paid some and they have not paid some, during that the duration where they are going to give a notice to the Secretary General, and the whole obligation that has been accrued, plus others that have not been known, have to be paid. So you'll find the cost of withdrawal is actually higher than the cost of being inside, leave alone other implication.
Well, now we're heading towards the end of the program. What would be your final message to the people of South Sudan regarding the EAC and this issue of the waiver of visas?
Thank you. The waiver of visa is a good move, and our people should appreciate it. But they should know also, it's not a random movement. You know, movement of people have to be fast-tracked. All documentation should be correct. because it is not just free as you move from another side of Juba to another side of Juba. You are crossing a territory of a foreign state, of a partner state, which is sovereign. And movement of criminals and everything else need to be controlled. And you see even this under this union, this waiver of visa, it does not tracking or tracking of people's record. Your records must be clear when you enter Kenya. What you need is that is stamp-free, but your records must be clear. That our people should get.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to pay, but your records must be clear. That our people should get. And second, about EAC. EAC is a good project, and it's a project of our country. Mm-hmm. We are part of EAC, and EAC is ours, and we are EAC. So we need to be part of it and appreciate EAC and work together with our people in the region so that we advance the interests of the East African community. It is to our advantage, not the other way around. Thank you.
Regarding employment, what is the effect of this visa right now, visa waiver, means practically are South Sudanese able to work and Kenyans able to work in between these two countries?
From the statement from the Kenyan Minister of Foreign Affairs, I think that was explicit. Mm-hmm. And the interest on the areas of working. And you know, this is tied down to regulations of that is controlling the common market. Mm-hmm. There are provisions of where the Council of Ministers will sit down and agree on harmonizing the issues to do with labor. Mm-hmm. You know, work is labor by itself. And you need to harmonize issues. So issues to do with, you know, the thing that has been a hectic thing. So the next question that for us, and we have been pushing this, we have been moving to immigration offices and in Kenya and in other countries and even ours. The question of work permit is what the region need to work on properly, and that is defined under Regulation 6 of the regulations that are provided for the protocol, because every protocol has its own regulations that are guiding the implementation. So now, the council now has a task. Even now, after now, the heads of states have endorsed and authorized the waiver, the free movement. Now, it's still to harmonize documentation. South Sudan and the Republic of Kenya, the Department of Immigration have a task to go with the speed. Because they will not just allow people to move that, they will have to work out some system harmonized. So the same thing that they need to do with the labor, and we are stressing the question of work permit. But you know, not all jobs are supposed to be competed. There are particular jobs that people in South Sudan cannot do. They need expertise. The same to Kenya. There are experts. You have Dr. Adgo here in Kenya, he's an expert. There are so many others, they are experts. I met a lot of doctors of ours here. They are experts. They are working here. People in the bank, they are working here. So those are jobs, specialized jobs that you cannot get anywhere. And the basic jobs need to be done by the people at home. That is not going to take away jobs from the people of South Sudan. If Kenyan come to South Sudan, they will get jobs which are jobs that our people may not be able to do. And they need another expertise that Kenyan would have, the same thing we can do in South Sudan. Another thing in the region, our people are competing. When jobs are advertised, like now, East African community has advertised like 61 jobs, and people are competing, so many of them. Maybe our people also will be employed. And jobs are distributed on quota system. So quota system, it means if Kenya had a lot before, then they should get less now, so Sudan get more. So that they are balanced in EAC in terms of parties, because we, under Article 6 and 7 of the treaty, which are principles, we are all equal, and we should get the shared benefit. Yeah.
Well, Honorable Gideon Gatpan, thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you very much, Roger. It's my pleasure. I hope next time we shall meet when there's a new thing coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Right, good night. Yeah.